Hi, good evening, and welcome to the sixth edition of the Lonavala International Film Festival. I am very happy and proud to have here with me Madhav Todi, my friend from school, the festival director, Sushil Agarwal, the patron in chief of this festival, our backbone. I am delighted to have my very old friend Ashim Samanta with me. He is the man whose father has made all these outstanding movies that we are going to be watching over the next 3 weekends. I also have a very close friend, Pooja Desai. Pooja Desai's grandfather, Shami Kapoor, was the hero of today's opening film, An Evening in Paris, and I'm sure she has a lot of things to tell us about her grandfather. I also have a very close friend called Sandip Soparrkar, the choreographer, the famous choreographer, and because Shami Saab was a dancing star, and Shami Saab had his own unique style of dancing, we thought it would be nice to have him talk about Shami Kapoor and why they don't make them like that anymore ever again. Uh, Ashim sir, I will start with you. Uh, your father has made some of the most memorable films that we have ever seen in our lifetimes. Right from the 50s up to the 90s, he was there making movies. He made films that actually defied convention, and he did it with a certain elan and a certain panache. So the first question I want to ask is a little bit about his history. Which was his first film? When did he turn from director to producer, and so on and so forth?
Well, he started assisting first. He was assisting Gyan Mukherjee, the famous director who made those huge super hit films of 1950s and 40s with Ashok Kumar, Kangan, Jhula, Kismat, all those fabulous films. And Gurudutt and Dad were both assistants of Gyan Mukherjee. And they were also assistants of another director, Fani Majumdar. And after that, he got his first break with Bahu and Inspector. Inspector is from the House of Nadiadwalas, their first film. So that's a very interesting story, but some other day I'll tell you. So after that, he made his first film as a producer and director, which was Howrah Bridge in 1958. It released in 58. So that was his journey.
Ashim sir, Howrah Bridge, Singapore, Chinatown, Burma Road, Evening in Paris, Kashmir Ki Kali. He was so fond of all these cities that he put them into the titles of his film. Is there any particular reason, or it was just a coincidence?
I think it was a coincidence. Actually, I've never asked him this question, though.
But now that I pointed, you see, they all have this big far eastern kind of atmosphere, except of course Kashmir and Paris. But Singapore and Chinatown and Howrah Bridge are all part of the same. But it was interesting. I think he did Singapore for Mr. F.C. Mehra.
F.C. Mehra, right.
And they must have been old friends because you all were neighbors at Natraj Studio together.
Yes, yes. And we are still friends.
And of course, you all are still friends.
Yeah.
And I want to now take the conversation a little bit to my friend Pooja. Pooja Desai, Kashmir Ki Kali and Evening in Paris. And then later on, Shakti Da made films like Jani and Pritam and a whole bunch of films with Shami Saab. In fact, the two long-lasting relationships that Shakti Da had were with Shami Kapoor and then, of course, with Rajesh Khanna, with whom there was another huge bunch of successful films, which we'll discuss next week. That is our Rajesh Khanna special weekend. Tell us a little bit about your grandfather first, as a person, as a dancer, and then we'll talk about his relationship with Shakti Da and the kind of films he made for Shakti.
I think my grandfather was one of those Renaissance men who sort of wanted to excel at everything he did. He taught himself how to play chess. He read books. He watched foreign films. He was somebody who was constantly learning. I think he was just like a student in life. He never said, I know it all. And I think that was the thing that I got from him, which was he just wanted to know more. He never gave up and said, you know what, let me teach you. He was always himself learning. And I think it was that pursuit of, bettering yourself and, even admitting, okay, I don't know this, let me learn it, whether it's technology or, music and, the arts or sports or anything like that. And I think that tells you a lot about a person. And I think that's the most salient feature of my grandfather.
He was one of the very few early birds on the internet. When other
Yes, he
people
was.
when other people didn't know what the internet was, Mr. Shami Kapoor had a whole internet room.
Yeah, he had his computer room. It was his den where, we would go and find him there. And, as technology changed, he was always trying to deal with the new apps, Facebook and Twitter. And so I remember he used to make fun of my grandmom because she wasn't on Twitter. And she didn't know how to use the computer. So I actually taught her how to use the iPhone, the BlackBerry. I put her on Twitter before he was, and he was very upset about it. But then finally, I taught him how to use it, and he was always willing to learn. It was never like, okay,
Yeah, I know, because when I went to him for my film Sana Kopar, your grandmother said you'll find him in the computer room.
Yeah.
And in 92 and 93, I said, computer room? And he was there surrounded by technology as if he was in a spaceship, and he beckoned me to come in. And we discussed things. And I always connect Yahoo with him. And I think Yahoo themselves connect with him because he was one of the earliest people on Yahoo. And he was in touch with them. So he told me. The other big thing about your grandfather, and I'm going to ask Sandip this, is that he had a very unique style of dancing. It was not PT exercises the way they do today. It was unique. It was not choreographable. And I was told that you just gave Shami Saab the song and you told him, this is the camera and this is the space you have, and he would do his own thing. Now, two things. First, tell us a little about how Shami Saab danced, and then tell us how you would have choreographed him if you had the opportunity.
First of all, I want to thank you all for making me a part of this amazing conversation. It's a big privilege to come and speak about Evening in Paris and at the same time about Shami sir. I remember when I would watch his films and I would be like, "Arey, ye to twist hai, ye to cha-cha-cha hai, ye to swing hai, ye to rock and roll hai. This is samba, this is cha-cha." He used to do all those dances with such ease that it inspired me to be a dancer. I still remember the day when I went and met him at Prithvi Theatre. His son Aditya Raj Kapoor was my student, and he took me to meet him. And he said, "Sandeep, tum hamare zamane mein kyun nahi paida hue? Tab hum karte the acha cha cha cha." So I think it was a privilege for even him to say that to me, and I feel humbled and honored that he did that. I think he was one of the best dancers of our country till today, and there can no one who will touch him. Because the way he danced with such grace, style, with class, I think that all mixed together is a very rare combination. Today, unfortunately, we see a lot of exercise happening, and his time, it was not exercise, it was dancing and expression and emotion to that dance. I think all these three things together made him an icon. And like you correctly said, Yahoo was only because he made it so by the way and so simple. And today we make efforts for it. So that simplicity of dance which is there, with just dance as its purity and coming from the heart, जो दिल से निकलता है वो अच्छा नाच होता है, and that is what he did. He danced from his heart, and it till today rules the world.
Ashim, I think two of the happiest films your father made, song, dance, romance, the breeziness of what Bollywood represents, were Evening in Paris and Kashmir Ki Kali.
Absolutely.
They were just happy films. I mean, the film starts with him singing Aisa Mauka Phir Kahan Milega. And you see the lights of Paris. And the audiences must have looked at it and said, "Oh, where have we come?" And he just took them into another world for 3 hours and they came back.
Even Chinatown. Even Chinatown.
Even Chinatown. In fact, the three films you've chosen for our opening weekend are the three films that Shami Saab and Shakti Da did together. And they were happy films.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember one song, Asman Se Aaya Farishta, where he had this bathrobe on and he gets onto this ladder on a helicopter and he's doing Sharmila Tagore, who's merely water skiing, and that must have been the Riviera. And in the same film, he takes them to the Alps and they go, Akele, Akele, kahan ja rahe ho? And it's quite incredible the sheer amount of fun that you guys had. We don't have that kind of fun today, sir. I'll be very honest with you. Today we are dictated by corporate diktat and emails being sent to us saying so many shots per day. It wasn't so in those days. They were
No, I'll tell you about Dad and Shami Uncle's first film. They were shooting in Singapore.
Okay.
For the film Singapore. And there was
If
a
I'm
dance.
not mistaken, was produced by Mehra Sahab, FC Mehra produced.
FC Mehras, yes. And there was this dance director who was showing him what to do. So Shami Uncle told Dad, Shaki, zara side mein aana. So he said, Yaar, I can't do these steps. I'm a natural person, not natural dancer, and I won't repeat in every take the same steps also. I just do what comes naturally to me. For every take will be different. So you just let me do what I want. Said, of course, I would like you to do what you want. I would prefer that to, dance on a special choreographed steps and all that, because that will look natural and I'm with you. And that is how their relationship, started. And then he was very natural in his dancing. And as he said that no two shots was the same steps, because he just went with the flow, what came naturally to him. And that is why it was so good. And he, in these 120 years or so, he's one of the best dancers ever.
Yes, he is. And in fact, even their later films, Pritam and Pagla Kahika and Jani Anjani and a whole bunch of other stuff that Shami Saab and they did. And by then he was a little older and a little bit broader on the way. But when he danced, he danced.
Oh, yeah.
I remember 5 years old and sitting in the pier of the radio club. And we used to see films on that pier in the dark with a little curtain. And the parents would be up playing cards or playing tennis or sitting in the bar, and the kids would be sitting, and there was Pagla Kahika. And there was a song that went, Mere bhains ko danda kyun mara?
Danda kyun mara?
And Shami Saab just took the danda, and at some point there was a bell, at some point he was the bell, at some point he was jumping on them. And there was so much energy that this man had.
Tremendous energy.
But it takes one thing to have that energy.
Yeah.
It's another thing to take that energy out, and that's what your father did.
Yes.
The later films, the earlier films, they went from Singapore to China to Kashmir to Paris. They came back. Then there was a bunch of Rajesh Khanna films, and then there was Jani and Jan. It was just a journey full of joy, and I think one of the reasons why we have this festival, a dip into nostalgia every year, is because that magic of that era is not replicatable anymore. Everything is dehumanized. Today you have one instrument, it's called a Casio or something, gives you 100.
Yeah.
Those 100.
I was chatting with Shami Uncle once about Asman Se Aaya Farishta. And Dad had told me that how he had picturized that and all that. Then Shami Uncle also repeated the same things in a very different, in his own style. Yeah. So he was telling me, ye Gana suna. Uske baad Shakti told me that what if we shoot you coming from a helicopter? So then he said, Shami Uncle thought in his mind, कि ये शक्ति बोल तो रहा है हेलीकॉप्टर लाएगा कहाँ से शूटिंग के लिए. So he very bravely said, मैंने तो शक्ति को बोल दिया, done, I will hang from the helicopter. And then we were in Beirut shooting. So one morning, Shakti comes into my room and says, Shami, the helicopter is coming at 11 o'clock. So we'll start shooting. So he said, अब मेरी बोलती बंद, अब मैं क्या करूं? मैंने बोल तो दिया जोश में कि मैं हेलीकॉप्टर से I will hang from the helicopter and sing it, but now I started getting shivers. So then I said, I'm Shami Kapoor, how can I get scared? So then I went to the manager of the hotel in Beirut and told him that I want a bottle of brandy. So he said, the bar is closed, sir. He said, but I'm Shammi Kapoor, so you have to open the bar for me. So that fellow opened the bar, gave him a bottle of brandy. Then he had 2 swigs of brandy. And he says, then I became a tiger. And then I said, Shakti, where is the helicopter? Come on, let's shoot. So that's how the shooting started. And then when the shooting started, the helicopter's sound was so loud that he couldn't hear the playback. So now he had to give sync, and he had to know when the camera goes on and when the shot starts, etc. So what they did is, Dad was down below miming the song very loudly, like, Saman say. So he could lip read. Yeah. Just imagine this man. He was such an expert. He could lip read. He couldn't hear the sound at all. And with a white hanky, Dad would shake. That means the camera is on. And then Dad would sing the lines. And Shammi uncle, looking at him, sang the song. Just imagine perfect sync. I mean, this is only geniuses can do these things.
Hats off to them. And Pooja, completely unself-conscious.
Yeah.
That wind must have been 80 miles an hour. He didn't care that his hair was combed or uncombed, or that his makeup was running or not running, or that his bathrobe was there and he had no 6-packs to flaunt. He just eased into it with so much energy, unself-consciously. They don't make men like that anymore, Pooja.
Yeah, and he had vertigo, and that's why he was petrified. So he had the ability, and he was really scared of heights. So that was the thing. And
two swigs of brandy. So
that could make anyone a tiger at that point. And I think the best part of Evening in Paris, from what I've been told, was that they had a really tight crew. Like, there was a really minimal crew that was.
There were just 18. There were just 18 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Including the stars.
Exactly. And when you see the product on screen, it's such a luxurious, rich-looking film that's shot across so many cities and locations. You wouldn't imagine that it was such a bare bone, crew, and they still did it. So obviously you can do it.
Ashim sir, where all did they shoot for Evening in Paris?
See, they shot in Beirut quite a lot. Beirut, then they shot in Switzerland, Paris, Hamburg. They shot Aji Aisa Mauka Fir Kahan Milega, the title song in Hamburg. Most of it, little bit in Paris, very little in Paris, and little bit in on a set of in the boat, the portion which they shot of the song in the boat. That was in a studio in Bombay. And then they shot in Niagara Falls, Canada.
And then they went to Canada and shot in the Niagara Falls as well.
Yes. That was the second schedule. That was an even smaller unit.
What kind of budget did they have?
Very tiny budget, because those days.
I think we've lost.
Ashim sir will join back.
Just a quick thing. Just thought of something which came to mind when Pooja ji was talking about Shammi ji. Of course, this film is tomorrow, Kashmir Ki Kali, but I recall seeing an interview of Shammi ji where he mentioned in that song, which he dances on the lake, and every single time that he danced to that song, he had a different action, and that is what I recall in his interview. And it was only a genius like him who could have pulled that off, that each time that song played. I think Ashim ji is back. Ashim ji, would like to continue?
No, that was Kashmir Ki Kali, Taarif Karu Kya.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So he said in that interview that each time that Taarif Karu Kya Uski came on, I had a different dance sequence action to show that. And
yes,
you can't copy the same thing over and over again.
He himself could not copy. You see, because he was a natural. So he did just at the spur of the moment which happened. So he was something else. He was not like a mechanical doll. He was absolutely, he just went with the feeling and the mood of that moment.
Sandip sir, today who would be able to match this?
No one at all.
I agree with Sandip.
It's an honest answer. No one.
No, I thought
at all.
as much, but I wanted to
today,
hear.
Today when we have these foreign dancers dancing around you and all that, this was done way then. Evening in Paris title song with all these foreigners everywhere, which is today a very, prestigious thing to do. It happened way then. So it was a combination of both of them. Yeah, and on a tiny budget. So can you imagine?
And I must also add one thing for the benefit of all my students who are watching. There were no drones. There was no Steadicam. There was no digital camera. There was nothing except this very heavy camera. And it had to be lugged from place to place with a unit of
18 people.
18 people.
Just 18 people plus the lightmen from the lightmen who were employed from the city itself, maybe another 6. So total about 24 people. Today you have a 240 members unit.
So absolutely. I think apart from that, I think Evening in Paris was another thing which I think apart from Shamiji, which was very, very beautiful, was Helen Auntie. She dancing Leja Leja Mera Dil.
No, that was Sharmila.
That was Sharmila Tagore in a double role.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sharmila Tagore. It was, what a song. PL Raj choreography. Oh my God.
That must have been a set, Ashimda. That must have been a set.
That was a set.
That's surely a set, but the way it was all done. Outstanding. And
Pooja, suddenly you're not just related to Shami Kapoor, but you're related to Sharmila Tagore as well, because your cousin's son is her grandson.
That is right.
Yeah. So when you were shooting with Shami Kapoor and Sharmila Tagore, and I think Kashmiri Ki Kali was her first big commercial film. And we will discuss that tomorrow about Sharmila ma'am. But
Vivek,
finally,
I must interrupt you because we're running out of time.
We're running out of time. All right.
I just have, I have got a couple of questions, but I'll just ask one to Ashimji. Ashimji, do you recall which film or films were closest to your father's heart?
I think Amar Prem was the closest, and Amanush and Amar Prem.
All right, so that satisfies the viewer's query. So Amar Prem we are showing next weekend, and Amanush we are showing in the final weekend. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining us.
Thank you all. And Sandip ji, if you can join us tomorrow, come back. Ashim ji and Pooja ji, come back. Let us continue this fabulous conversation. I have a big complaint, Madhav sir. I think we should have extended conversations. ये 20 minutes में दिल नहीं भरता है public की ना हमारी. Just when it gets interesting and just when we bond and we talk real, you tell us, okay, tata, bye bye. ऐसे नहीं होता है. But for what it's worth, we'll see all of you tomorrow. Thank you, Ashim. Thank you.
All the best.
Incidentally, Pooja is doing this from New York, and for her it must be 8 in the morning or some such, and she's going to go to work. I have finished a full day of work at school, and I have another 2 webinars to finish. So thank you all, and enjoy an evening in Paris. See you all tomorrow. Thank you, Madhav sir.
Thank you.
I must add over here, thank you to all our partners, Trios Boutique Hotel, Plexibo for streaming, Ultra Media for the content, and of course, not to Viveck School of Contemporary Media at Pearl Academy, and our radio partner at FM. Thank you, all of you, all the panelists and our partners. And see you all tomorrow once again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.